Did you hear that?
Oh, I did.
I have never heard that before. Welcome to In the Jungle. I'm Matt Edwards. Jed DeMuesy, you're now a 3-time guest. We're doing this on Zoom, and apparently Zoom now does a thing where a little machine comes on and goes recording in progress in a very cyborg-like way.
Yeah, I don't know if Ohio is a two-party consent state, or if they know even where you are. Or I had to consent to recording, and I certainly did. Third time. What do I get at if I go 5? I should get something. I'm just going to say. So maybe just have me on a 4th time and then never talk to me again.
Yeah, that's actually, I was planning on 3rd, so I don't know. Maybe I should come up with something.
Or we just stop it here. Sure.
We might be able to do that. You're not tied with Craig Smiley for the most appearances on this podcast. This is the 83rd episode, and you have appeared on 3 apiece.
I am humbled and honored.
Do you miss the broadcast business? Last time I talked to you, you were just out. And I know for me, when I got out, this is when football season is approaching. For those of us who cover and our local sports guys, this is always the most exciting time of year. How are you feeling right now, Jed DeMuesy, former Local 12 sports anchor?
Yeah, this is the most exciting time of year, I would agree. And I think it would be even more exciting if my first year at Local 12 was the last year the Reds made the playoffs. They lost that one game playoff against the Pirates.
The Johnny Cueto dropping the ball game.
Correct.
I was at that game.
But that was also in the midst of the Bengals, those seasons where they made consecutive playoff appearances and didn't win, but they were always, sort of a contending team. So that was a fun summer, that first summer, because the Reds were clicking, and you knew that the Bengals were going to have a halfway decent team, or at least were supposed to, and ended up having, a team that made the playoffs. So, this is kind of a time where, and now that everything, last year was so just sanitary. We could go shoot practice, but we had to be really far away. There wasn't really a lot of buzz, and I don't know what the limitations are now for the media, but the fact that they had the media luncheon yesterday, which is the only opportunity that the media gets to ask Mike Brown questions, unless there's if Jesse Bates signs, he might come down and be a part of that. But the fact that was reinstituted leads me to believe that the media is going to slowly but surely sort of gain some of their access back. I don't know if they're going to be back in the locker room, but to go to practice, and certainly with this team, with this Bengals team, that would be fun to cover. So I'll just, I'll have to settle for going to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and, being able to see the kid more often and go, have weekends free. So it's a trade-off, but certainly this time of year is one of the best times to do what I used to do.
I'm right there with you. And 2012 Bengals lost to the Texans in the playoffs 19-13. That Matt Schaub, known as a postseason monster, couldn't get past him. I'm with you, man. Now that we're out of the business, and especially once COVID hit, I like last night watching the Olympics. It's 11 o'clock, and I'm struggling to stay awake, which is crazy that for 7 or 8 years I was going on live TV at 11:20 every night. And now it's all I can do to make it up to watch the news if I'm up that late. So I'm with you. Down in Cincinnati, I'm kind of getting the feeling that the expectations for this year's Bengals squad amongst the fans, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but they're getting maybe a little, it almost seems like right now everyone kind of has this consensus, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, but that the Bengals are going to get into the playoffs. Do you get that vibe also? Like every Bengals fan I follow on Twitter thinks we're going to sneak up on people, and I don't disagree with it. But it almost, is there some overconfidence going on in the people you talk to and listen to?
Yes, and I think I know why. I think one of the main reasons why, outside of anything on the field, Joe Burrow coming back and being healthy and all that is certainly a shot in the arm for this team, no pun intended. But I think one of the main reasons why people are getting so excited is they're conflating what the Bengals are doing off the field for the first time in a long time, and sort of making that part of the reason why they think that they're going to surprise some people. And that those two things should be separate. But I think there's a part of the fan base that says this team is taking steps this offseason and welcoming the fan base in ways that we have been clamoring for years that just hasn't happened. So what else can we do but say we're really excited for this year? What else can we do but have high expectations? They had a uniform unveiling where they invited the fan base, 50, however many fans that they invited. They have things set up for training camp and they've always had a family day, but I think there are some more, intricate things involved. The Ring of Honor, which fans have wanted for a long time, is happening. So I think a lot of the goodwill that this team is putting out into the community that they haven't for a long time is coming back to them in maybe higher expectations than this team can live up to.
And I'm kind of hypocritical in what I say because I believe I picked them to make the playoffs the year before they were able to draft Joe Burrow. So I'm right there with everyone. Here's another thing, and I know I've talked about this before. We got to quit getting excited. I think it was maybe Nate Burleson the other day, last week on NFL Network, picked the Bengals to sneak into the playoffs. And again, it's one of those things where my timeline goes nuts. That's a bad thing, right? You want to actually sneak, but the more momentum that starts to build, then the expectations get there. I think we kind of saw this with the Browns and Freddie Kitchens' lone year, not to this extent, but it's kind of like when people talk about you during the offseason, when you go and play teams like Green Bay and Baltimore and whoever this year, they're going to say, oh, yeah, these are the guys who are supposed to come up here and kind of sneak the crown, or not necessarily even sneak the crown. Can you tell this is the first podcast in 2 months? I sound like an idiot, or more of an idiot than usual, I should say. What do we do about that?
Yeah.
Can we pipe things down?
Yeah. And again, first of all, I hope that you mean to the extent that the Freddie Kitchen Browns weren't talked about, that was way, way beyond what we're seeing here for the Bengals. Okay. Yeah, I think again, here's the other part. The Bengals themselves, the team, Elizabeth Blackburn is getting a lot of credit for, her forward facing approach to the fans. But there's been a couple things that Bengals fans have been used to. Number one is the Bengals aren't really necessarily interested in reaching out. They're not really they want you to come, but, in terms of, and they do a lot in the community in terms of helping charities and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just talking about fan interaction. Well, they're doing that this year. Okay, well, that kind of makes me happy. The other thing Bengals fans are typically used to is if they turn on, NFL Network and Good Morning Football, they're not going to hear about their team. And if they do, it's not going to be in a positive context. Well, now you turn on and Kay Adams is typically wearing, Houday or something Bengals. You have Nate Burleson making the comments that he's making, and you just can't help but kind of like float along here, because all of the things that you're used to sort of not working in your favor, all of a sudden the Bengals are reaching out more. The national media has a better perspective of you, and you just can't help it. And does it need to be calmed down? Sure, it needs to be calmed down. I mean, there aren't a ton of teams, in my opinion, that can look at, even though the playoffs are expanding, that can look at going into this season. There's so many things that can happen, especially in the AFC North. Especially when you have 6 wins in the last 2 years. I don't think the expectation should be we're going to sneak into the playoffs. So the people who are saying that, I'm happy for Bengals fans that they're getting a little more positive attention. But it would be nice if you could sort of separate that from the reality of the fact that this team hasn't done a lot. They have a second-year quarterback who, by all accounts, is going to have a statue outside of the stadium at some point. But there's still a lot of question marks. And the reality is they've won 6 games in the past 2 years. So I do think that there needs to be somewhat of, enthusiasm needs to be curbed somewhat. But, it's hard to tell a fan base that's sort of been downtrodden for so long that they can't get excited. Or they shouldn't be excited.
And I should mention, I ride the fence here because on one hand, I'm 32 years old and I've never seen the Bengals win a playoff game, or at least I'm not old enough to remember them winning a playoff game. I was just shy of 2 years old the last time they did. So I'm on one hand, you know this, being a reporter, being a journalist, working in sports definitely waters down that fandom that you have. I think that happens to everyone. Mm-hmm. So half of me still has a journalist saying, all right, we gotta temper expectations. But then the other fan side of me is like, yeah, we're going to sneak into the playoffs. The Bengals are going to sneak into the playoffs. See, there I go getting all fans saying we're like I have anything to do with the team. I could die today and it would not change the outcome of the rest of their franchise history. However, I kind of get both sides. So I want to be clear that I'm not saying you shouldn't hope for the Bengals to make the playoffs, because what else are you watching the games for? That's something I've got on people in the past. You know, it doesn't, I mean, much crazier things that have happened than a team who has 6 wins in 2 seasons going on to make the playoffs. So no need not to be optimistic, but at the same time, it's kind of like I'm telling myself, hey, don't get too excited because you've been down this road before. And so far, in a little over 3 decades, it has yet to work out for me. So that's where we're at. Hey.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I think the other thing too, and this might lean more towards your fandom than it does the reality side of things, is this team, and you can say the same thing about Cleveland, even though they're maybe a year or two sort of ahead. This team seems like it knows where it's going, and they are taking steps. And I think they're, you know, I don't know if we're going to go through a full 53-man roster breakdown, but I think there are still some holes on this team. But it just seems like when you look around the league, it seems like there are a lot of teams that are just like, and the Bengals used to be like that, and the Browns used to be like that, where it was like you had position battles. I mean, if you look at the Bengals roster right now, there's out of 53 guys that are going to make the team, I could tell you, I would feel pretty confident in saying I can tell you 47, 48 that are definitely going to make it. And in years past, it was nowhere close to that. You know, in the first couple of years of Zach Taylor and all the nonsense that he had to, there were some self-inflicted wounds I think Zach Taylor created for himself, and there were some outside circumstances that I think befell him that he had to, kind of the Cordy Glenn situation, I think, was an absolute joke in the sense that nobody other than Zach Taylor in that front office decided to say anything about that, and it was all his responsibility. The AJ Green situation and you can the Carlos Dunlap stuff. You know, it seems to me like that and this is sort of what was said yesterday in the media session. It seems like all sort of the baggage and the stuff that the transition from Marvin to Zach is complete. He's got the majority of the guys on the roster that he put there. I think there's a handful of guys that were there before he was. And I think that you can at least when you look at them and say, okay, I see what they're doing here. Maybe they should have gone this way in the draft, but I understand the plan here. And I think there are a lot of other teams in the league where you look around and say, what are they going to do? Like, what is the plan here? What are we doing? And I think that things can change and things can fluctuate, but I think the Bengals fans should feel confident in the sense that it seems like things are going in the correct direction in terms of the momentum potentially that this team could enter the season with.
I like it. I like and you're right. I read Paul Dehner Jr. on The Athletic this morning with his 53-man roster projection. I don't know if you saw that or not. I didn't realize. I mean, start on offense, starters wise, really the only question is is Trey Hopkins ready week 1? And if he's not, he's the guy when he is ready. And I don't know if I said A or 1 or whatever, but question B would be, does Jackson Carman supplant one of the veterans at guard? And you're good on offense. And the other side of the ball, kind of the same thing. I mean, safeties, we know what it's going to be. Defensive line, we know what it's going to be. Really the only question is those second-year linebackers, how do they shake out and who ends up taking those spots? So you're right about that, and that's a great thing to go into camp with. That's an exciting thing to go into camp with. I wanted to ask you before I forget, by the way, you're in a situation, you've publicly announced you're having a second baby boy, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so we can talk about this. You are in a situation where I think everyone who follows you on social media knows you're a Browns fan. You're from Northeast Ohio, yada, yada, yada. Of course, you're a Browns fan. Your sons, assuming you're staying in Cincinnati for the foreseeable future, could very well grow up in an era where they live in a city with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, perhaps one of the best athletes, most recognized athletes. We all have that optimism right now in the country. How's that going to shake out? Are you going to push them toward being Browns fans? Or if they're going to school and all their friends have Joe Burrow jerseys on, how's that going to shake out?
The smoke alarm ran out of battery in my son's room at 3 a.m. last night. So navigating how to change the battery out so it stopped beeping without waking him up is sort of my top priority, or at least it was. I don't know if I've really, I think if you ask any parent, hey, where do you think your toddlers' football allegiances are going to fall? I think that's maybe way, way down the list in terms of things that they talk about or
we have different
themselves
priorities
with.
then.
But I will entertain the question or the question. It doesn't really matter to me. I hope that he, I think when you have kids, you just hope when you see them develop, you just hope that they take an interest in something, and that you hope they take an interest in something, and then selfishly you hope that it's something that you're interested in. So I think if he has an interest in football, if he has an interest in the Bengals, if he likes the Cowboys, if he likes, the Steelers and Ravens are probably no-goes for me, but I think that there's a very real possibility that my son could have a Joe Burrow jersey on. If that's something that he wants and that's something he's interested in, I'm happy to indulge that. It's gonna, being so close to the team as I was for however many years, and obviously I was much closer to Marvin Lewis than I was to Zach Taylor, but there are a lot of people in that organization still, obviously, that I root for. Whether it be in the media relations department, whether it be, people that I got to know who are still on the team. There's a bunch of people who you still kind of root for personally, even though, I'm not a Bengals fan. So that I would have no problem with Foster or the other little guy having a Joe Burrow jersey. But I have never thought of that, but it's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's going to keep you up at night now. Well, that's good. I'm glad
that and the smoke alarm. Yeah.
Yes, the smoke alarm will get you too. Wait, he stayed asleep through a smoke alarm?
He did.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he was fussing a little bit, but I heard it and I was like, there's any, I don't think a smoke alarm in a baby's room loses its battery at any other time other than between like 1 and 3 a.m. Like,
right.
I think you're just, I went downstairs and I'm like, this is definitely going to be in his room. And it happened to be in his room. And we got it situated and he slept, as he normally does. So, but
well, on the bright side, your house wasn't on fire.
That's true. That's another plus. So,
I noticed during the MLB draft, anytime anyone gets drafted from Miami, or anytime someone from Miami joins a beer league softball team or their local YMCA basketball team, you'll quote tweet it, #love and honor.
Yeah.
I can't believe I've never had this conversation with you, or maybe I have and I just forget. What are your feelings toward one Ben Roethlisberger, given that he's terrorized you for so long, but at the same time, he's, I think, easily the most successful athlete in the last at least 25, 30 years to come out of Miami?
Certainly outside of, I would say, yes, he's the most talented athlete to come out of Miami. And I think if you take hockey out of the equation, that he's far and away the number one. He was dead to me when he got drafted by the Steelers. He was. I was on campus when my freshman year was the year that they went 13-1 and the only loss was to Iowa and they won the bowl game. I think they finished top 10 in the country. I'm not a fan of Pittsburgh. I grew up in Northeast Ohio and, I have a friend and I constantly beat this drum with him. Very well that the things that that grind my gears. I don't suffer them well, and I bring them up quite often. He my best friend, and he lives in Pittsburgh now, and he roots for the Penguins. And I think that's abhorrent.
And he's a Browns fan?
I don't agree with. He's a Browns fan.
Okay.
He's a Cleveland fan. He's an Indians fan. He's a Guardians fan. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Cavs fan, and he's a Penguins fan. And his thing is that there's no hockey team in Cleveland for me to root for. And I said, but if you go to a Penguins game and you high five someone, that's a Steelers fan. You are commiserating, or you're celebrating with the Steelers fan, and that to me is I won't do it. I just can't root for Pittsburgh. I can't do it.
No, I would. You got on me when we worked together 12 years ago. You got on me because I'm obviously a Bengals and Reds fan, but I also, for a time, was a Cleveland Cavaliers fan during the LeBron years, and still wish them well. So you got on me big about that, but I didn't have. So do you feel as strongly back as you did towards me as you do with this guy? I feel like if you're in the same state, that's a different scenario.
Yeah, and I think too, it's kind of like, I think Cleveland fans were very, and I grew up an hour south of Cleveland, and I hear from my brother-in-law who grew up in Lakewood, the first suburb west, that I'm not as big of a Cleveland fan as he is because he's closer to the city. And I think a lot of Cleveland fans were guarded with all of these sort of looky-loo fans. Oh, we've got LeBron, and now all of a sudden there's kind of Cavs stuff. You kind of just take, you kind of suffer in silence, but then once they're good, everyone wants to kind of be a part of it. And I think maybe that's sort of the line of thinking that I was probably using with you. And you're certainly free to root for anyone you want, and people are free to be Browns fans and Penguins fans if they feel like it. But I think there was a sense of, hey, we've been bad for a long time. Hey, a lot of these fans have suffered through, the Mike Fratello years, and, the Ricky Davis and Darius Miles 14, 15 win seasons. So now that we're on the come up, we don't necessarily want a lot of outsiders to share in this, but that they did, and
that's the way it goes.
That's great.
I always say about that is when the Bengals here, and you'll see this with the Browns too, when the Browns or the Bengals finally get on top of that mountain, no one is going to enjoy it as much of those of us who have suffered through all the hell over the years have. So that's kind of where I stand on that. Like, all right, if you root for the Browns now, can you still see me? I can't see you.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Just give me a second.
No worries. If you root for the Browns right now, but you don't know who Derek Anderson was, you weren't there to see Josh Gordon have an amazing season, you won't appreciate it the way that someone like you will. In the same regards, when I grew up in Zanesville, which is mostly, as you know, is mostly Browns fans. And my whole freaking life, I'm going to school in an Akili Smith jersey and a Carl Pickens and Jeff Blake jersey. And I'm the only kid in school with the Bengals jersey on, maybe me and Mitchell King. And if you're out and about in public, you never see anyone around town in Bengals stuff. If you do, it's kind of like, hey, what's up? And then 2005 comes along. I'm working at the Colony Square Mall. And holiday season, when the Bengals go 11-5 and make the playoffs, everyone's got the Carson Palmer jersey, the Chad Johnson jersey. I mean, I literally would see more people in a week wearing Bengals stuff all of a sudden than I typically would in a year. And that's kind of where I had to tell myself mentally, like, all right, that's annoying because you didn't go through the suffering. You didn't rock the Akili Smith jersey. But at the same time, I know that it'll never mean as much. Not to get sentimental over football, but It'll never mean as much to them as it would to someone like us who have actually been through hell with it.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I think that probably was better articulated my feeling on it, that, and you almost just want people to know, hey, I've been around for a while, the people who want to make sure that that they listened to this music way before it was popular, kind of thing. same sort of concept, I suppose. And that's a pretty insufferable concept. So I'm not advocating that anyone be as insufferable as me, although I would like to see someone try.
No, I mean, with sports, you're right. And that's the toughest part about me, being an Ohio State alum / fan is like growing up. I know people who had Michigan stuff who now have Ohio State stuff. No connection to either school, but it's like, that's as for the situation, that's as weak as it gets. And again, those of us, not that I have any, because I am the first to admit I was not an Ohio State football fan. I was just indifferent towards them before I went there, as to where it's like religion for a lot of people around here to grow up and, root for Ohio State. But I didn't grow up that way. My dad's not a big college football fan, which is why I'm such a big NFL fan. It's because he was. But anyways, I'm kind of rambling there. Let's get back one more thing. If Ben Roethlisberger had been, let's say, a stand-up dude rather than the monster of a human that we know he is, and up until recently, monster of a person that we know he is, do you think that would have changed your feelings toward him?
No. And I take all of his off the field stuff aside. I'm sure that there's a part of me that will appreciate his career coming from the fact that we share an alma mater, but that time will be long in the future. And I just can't do it right now. I can't. I can't root for the Steelers. I never have Steelers on my fantasy football team.
Same.
I won't take
shouldn't.
them. I just can't. I don't want to root for them. I don't want them to be on Sunday Night Football and me be in a position where I say, "Oh my gosh, I just need Juju to catch like 7 balls and 150 yards." Like, no, I don't want to be in that position. And people in my league are aware of that I won't do it, and I'll sit there and pass people up that are higher up just because I can't bring myself to root for them. So yeah, and it's gotten a little better with Baltimore now that Modell has passed away. It's a little my hatred for them is a little farther removed, but it's almost the same with the Ravens.
Yeah, so. I'm with you. And there's people in our league who it's mostly Bengals fans in my one family league, and they know that they can let Juju or Roethlisberger or whoever slide down to the 10th or 11th round because no one else is going to take them.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some rapid fire, and we'll let you get out of here. I'm trying to make these shorter as we approach the season. We've got 18 days until the Bengals' first preseason game, by the way. All right, you ready? You juiced up?
I'm ready.
What time did you get up today on top of your smoke alarm situation?
7:30.
Oh, okay. Must be nice to sleep in.
7:30.
Okay. Favorite game day food now that you're going to be off the clock?
I like making English muffin pizzas. That's what I like.
Like homemade or bagel bites?
No. Homemade. Toast the English muffin, a little pizza sauce, a little mozzarella, pepperoni, or mushroom, whatever you want. I like those. Throw them in the oven real quick. Yeah.
Not one I would have predicted.
Nice little thing. Yeah, I try to go off the map. Yeah.
I'm a chili guy myself. Go-to angry slogan when you're watching sports.
Heavens to Betsy.
That's a good one. Mine's a clean one too. I'm more of a, I don't know. I don't get vulgar when I'm watching sports. I don't know why that is. Favorite song right now.
Here's why I don't get. I have a bunch of friends, not family, but a bunch of friends that when I watch games with them, they get mad and they throw stuff and they punch stuff, not people, but they punch objects. And I've just been conditioned to not sort of be like that. So I try not to.
That's a little over the top.
Yeah. So I feel like I take it as seriously, but I don't get over the top with it.
Now, when they punch stuff, does it help the outcome of the game? Does it direct them?
I can't think that it does.
No.
And what I want to avoid is any sort of any sort of lingering, like, I don't want to be the guy that everyone's waiting for an apology from.
Yes.
Like, hey, I'm really sorry. In that third quarter, I took grandma's photo and put it through the window. Allow me to pay for that. I don't want to be not interested in being that person.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you're an adult. Favorite song right now?
I heard that question, and I'm going to it right now. Did you see that the Foo Fighters did an album that was half live songs from their new album and half Bee Gees covers?
I was not aware.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. And so the song I listened to probably 85 times yesterday was the Bee Gees song "Tragedy," covered by the DGs, which I can assume is Dave Grohl, but that's what they go as, the DGs. So that I guess would be literally my song of the moment. "Tragedy" by the DGs, which is a Bee Gees cover.
Okay, that's interesting to know. You ever listen to Arlo McKinley, by the way? Cincinnati guy, discovered him a few months ago. Very good. You check him out. You'd like him.
I'll have to. We have a lot of similar tastes in music. Yeah.
Yes, we do. Arlo McKinley's more on the alt country side, and I think you would like him. Best movie / TV show you've seen recently?
I just finished on vacation. I was on vacation and I watched. What's it called? Mayor of Eastwood.
Oh yeah, Easttown. Yes, it was great.
Easttown. Kate Winslet. Oh, Gene Smart was very good in it, but not a lot of. Oh, and the dude from. Oh my gosh, it was so random. Have you seen it?
Yes, but it's been like I watched it probably 2 months ago, which is forever in TV time.
Sure, Roy from The Office.
Oh yeah, Roy from The Office. Who?
It's like, wait.
Yeah.
I was like, is that Roy from The Office?
But you know what? He did such a good job by like episode 3. You forget it's Roy from The Office.
Yeah, but you see him and you're like, wait a second, what is this? What's happening here? And it's almost like you have something in your brain where you just sort of banish that person to that role. He's certainly allowed to go out and get other jobs, and he got one, and I thought he did a great job on that show. But I thought that show was pretty well done. Couple little things that didn't sit right with me in terms of the plot, but other than that, I thought it was pretty good.
Yes, I think the world agrees on that. Very good. I think everyone from The Office is kind of whoever their character was in The Office for the rest of time.
I was okay with Krasinski and Jack Ryan. I thought he did good with that on Amazon. It's another good show if you haven't seen that. I was okay with that, but I don't know. I don't know if anybody else has really done anything, or
I think Steve Carell's done all right.
Yeah, well, I don't think, when I look at him, I don't necessarily think, I think Michael Scott, obviously, and that's maybe the first thing I think of, but he's certainly done so many other things that I don't think he falls into that category.
Okay, yeah, I mean, him and John Krasinski and Mindy Kaling, I would say,
sure,
all kind of went to a different level. I think BJ Novak has too, but more off screen. Oh, and right. You know what? Erin, she is the Ellie Kemp. She's got that great show. Kimmy Schmidt, which I've seen a few episodes, but it's apparently very popular. So yeah, everyone listen to us judging the greatest TV show of all time and telling the actors how they're doing in life. I'm sure they're doing fine. Okay, last one. The thing or trend or person or whatever that is currently popular that you're just sick of.
Ooh, man.
And I'll tell you why you think what made me think about this. I'm so tired of the Instagram boomerang little cheers. Everyone does that all the time. We've seen it a million times. We can stop doing it. I mean, it's just, why is that the one trend that sticks around? Yeah.
I don't know if I think this is a trend that is not new, not recent, but it came to my attention, and I think it is abhorrent. The Jeep Wave is really stupid, really dumb.
Now, I'm familiar with the motorcycle wave, but what's the Jeep Wave?
The Jeep Wave is a friend of mine recently got a Jeep Wrangler, and this is apparently only Wrangler to Wrangler wave. And it's a thing. If you are driving a Wrangler,
you just have to wave to someone else if they have a Wrangler.
Yes. Very dumb.
Yeah, I've seen people do that on the motorcycle but their wave is particular where they keep their hand down and point at each other. Are you familiar with that?
Okay. I'm not familiar with that. And the Jeep wave is the way I've come to understand it is hand on the wheel, almost like a 3-finger kind of a whatever.
Yeah.
My friend.
Okay.
Yeah, my friend was no. I don't think it's connotating marijuana use, but my friend did it, and I said, "Why did you just wave to that car?" Oh man, it's another Wrangler, and I said, "Okay, but why did you wave? Because it was another. Do you know that person?" No, I was just nice wave, and as soon as I told him it bothered me, then of course it got way more pronounced and. He was at a stoplight and there was one next to him and he was like, hey, and it is insufferable. And there is that bumper sticker that says it's a Jeep thing you wouldn't understand.
Yeah, stab me.
And I think I get it. You just wave to other Jeep owners. Is that it?
Apparently so. I mean, what a lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know what? That's funny
I think I get it.
It's funny that you say that because I have been thinking / talking. I really like Jeep Wranglers. I've been thinking about getting one for months now. What's kept me away from doing it is the perception I have of most people who drive Jeep Wranglers. Like, it's very rare that I see someone driving a Jeep Wrangler and I'm like, I'd like to hang out with that person. And I don't want to get lumped into that crowd. And now that I know I'm supposed to wave to these people, I don't know. Dicey situation.
The other one too, and it's it's kind of funny when something's brought to your attention, it kind of beats you over the head. You just kind of your brain just notices it more often. And so I was driving the other day and I saw a Jeep Wrangler with a tire cover on the back with the wave, whatever it is, the 3 fingers or on the wheel or whatever. And it said, you either get it or you don't. Which ostensibly can be said for just about everything.
Yeah.
So I don't really know why they're laying claim to the fact that the Jeep wave is this one sort of dichotomous thing that you either understand or you don't. That's pretty much everything. Like
we want to belong so bad. Yeah. Everyone just wants a group. Yeah, you either get it or you don't. Subtraction, basic math.
The infield fly rule. It's all very, you either understand it or you don't. So I just, that's been, and I don't think it's a recent thing. I think it's been going on for a while, but it drives me insane.
You know what? If it makes you, here's what I always say. If it makes you happy and it doesn't hurt anyone else in the process, go for it. And the Jeep wave appears to be just that.
Yeah, sure. I would say if it makes you happy and it doesn't hurt anybody and isn't objectively annoying, then go for it.
Well, annoying could be hurting, irritating.
Sure.
Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that. All right, man, we'll wrap this up. If people want to follow you on Twitter, it is at Jed DeMuesy, all one word, DEMUESY, and Jed, correct, still spelled JED. Anything else you want to get to, add before we get off here?
No, I think Bengals fans should be optimistic. I think if you're looking at one thing in training camp, the front seven defensively, I think really, and you touched on it a little bit with the second year linebackers, and I think the defensive line depth is an interesting thing with DJ Reader coming back and Josh Tupou coming back from a year off, and they had an injury that the 7th round pick, whose name's escaping me right now, he won't be in the mix. He tore his pectoral.
It's Rennell, right?
No, Rennell Wren he's another guy, which the 7th round pick they made this year.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I know who he is too, and I can't think of it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I can't think of his name, but he's out for the entire year. Wyatt Hubert.
Wyatt.
Yeah. And then you've got Mike Daniels, who's kind of nicked up, and he was sort of brought in last year to provide some depth. But, the first year in a long time where you don't have Geno Atkins or Carlos Dunlap, I think the defensive line and I think the linebackers is what to watch for. And that's going to really be where I think there could be some fluctuation in terms of who makes it and who doesn't, because I think the spots that are up for grabs are really, maybe outside of like the last wide receiver that they decide to take. I think that defensive front seven is where you might see some fluctuation in terms of guys that you maybe thought weren't going to make it, or guys that you definitely had penciled in. Things kind of switching up there. So that's what I would look for in camp as it gets underway.
Yeah, and then Larry Ogunjobi and Trey Hendrickson in that mix now too, and you expect especially Hendrickson, you expect them to contribute. And I always love Larry Ogunjobi. I hope I'm saying his last name right. Is that right? In Cleveland.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He's one of those guys who's never going to be a Geno Atkins or anyone like that, but he's kind of, maybe a little bit better, or right on par with what Mike Daniels was last year, which, not that the Bengals had a ton of success last year, but he came in and filled a very important role, and who knows how much worse things would have been without depth guys like him. And I think Ogunjobi's a little more than that, but I'm excited for him. I always liked him in Cleveland. I always thought maybe he didn't get the recognition he should have given the other guys they have on that defensive line. But I mean, that's a bright spot. Just stay healthy, man. That's the one thing that I, the last 5, 6, 7 years with this team, just too many guys missing time. So let's hope that's a trend that stops.
I'm with you on that. I will wave to that.